Hi, and welcome to Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith, and I'm thrilled to have you along. Today, we do this every single week. We talk about struggle, we talk about worry, we talk about dealing with life, and the victories that can come from it if we just stick it out. If you want to hear this or any other Dealing with Life episode, or if you want to share it with somebody else, just go to dealingwithlife.net. This show today brought to you by Malone Dentistry. You know, this past weekend, we were in the car. The family was all in the car. We were driving around on a Saturday, and we pulled up to a store, and the car starts steaming like crazy. And the first thing, of course, you want to make sure it's not a fire, but it wasn't, and open up the hood, and there is just piles of steam coming out, and realized real quickly that it was totally out of coolant, couldn't drive it anymore. We were at Mayo Garden Center. The mechanic comes out and said, "Dude, that's your heater core." And I know just enough about cars to realize that's an expensive fix. And for the rest of, since it was a weekend, I had only to be able to tow it to my mechanic and leave it there in his parking lot. And for the rest of the weekend, I was left with, I got an expensive car fix. One, we're without a car. Two, how in the world are we going to pay for this? So it was a great exercise in dealing with worry, which is one of my passions. And worry is something that you never get rid of. But boy, oh boy, every day offers a new opportunity for worry. I'm glad to know that this morning when I talked to my mechanic and he looked at it, it was just a hose. Good news, but I was kind of fretting and worrying the whole weekend over something I had no idea whether it was anything or not, but I still worried about money, about being able to pay for it, being without a car. So my advice is to not worry until you know you have something to worry about. God's very good at taking care of us. And what I believe He wishes for us to do is to simply say, God, give me the strength to deal with whatever it is. In the studio with us today, Sharon Hall. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, how are you?
It's great to see you. Sharon is a cancer survivor and is now lead hospitality coordinator at Provision Proton Therapy, which basically means you deal with cancer patients on a daily, hourly, minutely basis. First of all, I want to just kind of have you explain a little bit about who you are and how you got to where you are. You're from here?
I am. Born and raised in Blount County.
Love Blount County. Yeah. Right there at the foot of the mountains.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I've lived in East Tennessee all my life. It's Blount County or Knoxville.
Right.
Moved to Knoxville probably, 35 years ago, somewhere like that. Moved from Blount County to Knox County. But just 0.6 of a mile across the line. I'm still home.
Okay. Well, we'll consider you local.
We're local.
Right. And you work, talk about, we'll talk about provision in a second, but talk about family.
Well, I am the youngest of 5 children. My mom and dad both from Blount County. I personally have, I like to just include all 4 children. It's actually 2 biological children and 2 stepchildren.
Oh, nice.
But they're all my kids.
Exactly.
All my kids.
Yeah. Our families, we have adopted son. And adopted is only in the story. In real life, he's our son.
He's our, absolutely.
That's all that matters.
Absolutely.
So great. And you've been in the hospitality, the medical hospitality field for a little while.
I have. Since 2007, I think it was, that I've been in the medical field of some sort. Not necessarily with cancer patients. I was in more medicine and pharmaceutical. But then after my diagnosis, the opportunity came up and I took on working with cancer patients, which was never in my plan.
Sure. Yeah, that's not an early check mark that you
no.
But
no.
Wow.
Never thought I would be in the medical field at all.
Wow.
Was just not really in my scope, or what I had envisioned for my life.
Yeah, but you seem to be very much a people person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you seem to wear a constant smile. I want to talk about how cancer and dealing with it has fueled your passion to go where you are now. I know that you have cancer in your family. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that.
It's been, July 3rd will be the 30th anniversary of my father passing, and he passed of cancer. That was a very difficult time. I was actually 6 months pregnant with my first child.
How old were you?
I was 26.
Okay.
And, we lost him to cancer, and that was really the first time that I ever really dealt close with cancer of someone in my family,
Sure.
in my life.
You heard of it from a distance, but never personally affected.
Yeah, because you don't really think about or educate yourself on things that are not in your life normally.
True.
So, and being in your 20s and, you just don't think about that. But
people around you are invincible.
Yes.
Yeah.
And my dad was totally, I just thought he would live forever. And he didn't really get sick until after he retired. And so that was, I had him up on a pedestal because, like I said, he was never sick. He was always going. So when we heard that, I was just crushed, just devastated.
Yeah. Everything changes.
Everything changes, yes.
Yeah.
So, my family and I, we pulled together and helped him through that, helped my mom through it. And it did change everything. Couldn't really understand. And I remember shortly after we first found out that he had cancer, and this was before I was expecting, but I remember going to the beach, and I'm walking along the beach, and of course, considering my age, I was very selfish.
Right. Does come with that age, doesn't it?
It does kind of come with that age. The whole world revolved around me.
Yes, it's all about me.
All about me.
Yeah.
But I remember walking on the beach, and I was thinking, why, and really angry with God, and why are you doing this?
Sure.
Why are you taking my daddy? Why are you doing this to my daddy?
Yeah. A very normal reaction.
Yes. But then it was just, I thought, what am I going to do without him? How am I going to go on? And, this is my daddy.
Yeah.
But then it just opened up, and I know that God was speaking to me. But he made me realize, open my eyes and see that the whole world was not revolving around me. That it was happening to my dad. So
you were affected.
I was
affected. It wasn't happening to you.
I thought, gosh, here I am worried about what am I going to do? And he's facing mortality,
Oh, that is a hard reality to swallow.
It was a very hard reality. Yeah. So when I went back and, we spent some time together, but, one of the greatest things too, I think, that I remember that my dad gave to me was his testimony in the hospital. He was in his bed, and I think I recall two of my sisters, maybe all three, were there by his bed. And, when he gave his testimony. And that really set with me.
What did he say? In a short form.
Yeah, in a short form, that we need to be appreciative of what we have and who we have in our life. I remember him saying that, we need to live right, do the right thing. So, it was kind of a fatherly advice. And I know he reflected back on his life, when he was talking to us.
Okay.
But he was just telling us the importance of family and faith and,
wow.
Always being there for each other.
Sure.
And I remember him thanking us for being there for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that has to be comforting.
It was very comforting. It was hard.
Yeah.
That's, especially, being that many years ago, you're still learning about life, which I'm still learning about life now.
Yeah, one day we'll get it.
Yeah, I hope.
Along this crazy, wild journey.
I keep wondering.
Yeah. So now that was, you say, 30 years ago, but you've also dealt with other difficulties.
I ended up divorcing, and that was probably for about 6 years. It was very difficult.
Oh yeah,
I had
wouldn't wish that on anybody.
No, I was a single mom of 2. By then, I had 2 children, and so just recently divorced in my early 40s, and I was called in by the doctor, and he said that I knew that I would probably in later years become diabetic.
Okay.
Because my mom was diabetic, grandmother.
Okay, genetic.
Yeah, genetic. So anyway, my physician sent me for my baseline on mammograms and, the whole bit.
The works.
And, yeah. So I'm like, yeah, okay. So I went in for my mammogram and then got called back in to reevaluate and to scan deeper. And so I was sitting there in the room, and when they shut the door, on the back of the door it said 1 in every 8 women that will have breast cancer. One in every 8.
That's a little eye-opening.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, oh, well, I know. Well, no, I don't know her. My sister knows her. And then I kept trying to come up with someone that I knew personally, I knew.
Okay.
Couldn't come up with anyone.
Interesting.
So I just kind of had this gut feeling come around, and I thought, they're going to tell me that I have cancer. And sure enough, within about 10 minutes, the door opens, and they came in, and they told me that they think it is, that they want to do a biopsy. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Wow.
So I have the biopsy, and a couple days later, they call me and confirm that it was cancer. And so
ouch.
The journey began on this next phase.
And at that point, you were a single mom of 2.
Mom of 2.
That's very scary.
Very scary.
We're going to go take a bookmark right here and then really dig into that story, because that story is partly what has fueled you to be where you are today. And I'm so excited to have you tell us all about that. This is Dealing with Life. Sharon Hall, who is the lead hospitality coordinator at the Provision Cares Center, Proton Therapy here in Knoxville. And we're going to talk a lot about that too as well. Today's show brought to you by Malone Dentistry. One thing that should not be a difficulty or struggle in your life is picking out a dentist. I have been going personally to Malone Dentistry for the last 20 years. They've been in business for the last 20 years. Malone Dentistry, Dr. Stephen Malone, specializes in family and restorative dentistry care. Comprehensive. They treat you like a member of their family, and it's always a pleasure to be there. It's not a difficult experience. You have honesty, you have experience, and personal care every time you go. Right off Kingston Pike on South Peters Road, it's not only Dr. Stephen Malone and his staff of 15, but there's also Dr. Aaron Noble and Dr. Michael Costa Jr. They create a plan for your mouth that will help you preserve your teeth for your lifetime. KnoxvilleSmiles.com. It's Malone Dentistry. You're listening to Dealing with Life. We'll have more of our conversation with Sharon Hall in just a moment.
And the story has only begun, and this is going to be the glorious unfolding. Just you wait and see, and you will be
You're listening to Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, video producer, author of One Dog's Faith. Today's show brought to you by Malone Dentistry. I have an exciting conversation today with Sharon Hall. She is the lead hospitality coordinator at Provision Cares Proton Therapy right here in Knoxville. And so glad to have you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here and to share this with you.
Well, it is. It's an exciting journey that you've had, and the people that you help now on a daily basis. It's such a blessing to have a you doing this.
Well, I think there's many that are out there that do this. It just how it all came about was God's plan.
Well, yeah, and sometimes it doesn't uncover itself right away. He has a good way of preparing us to deal with certain things or fueling our passion, and sometimes that's through difficulties. And not that I believe that He ordains the difficulties, but He uses them.
He most definitely uses.
Yes. So we moments ago talked about you discovering and being diagnosed with breast cancer as a single mom of two. You were in the doctor's office, and they came back with after the biopsy and said, "This truly is breast cancer."
Yes.
So where do you go from there?
Well, from there you just like I did just then, you take a deep breath.
Yeah. Right.
You know, then I'm thinking, what am I going to do? You know, here I am, a single mom.
Yeah, you're the source of income.
I am there.
Yeah.
And I had to make decisions and choices. And, you know, first off, I had to decide, how am I going to tell my sons, you know, that I have
That's
cancer.
harder than hearing it yourself.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I knew that, you know, I could shield myself and pick up the armor and start running and fighting. But,
Sure.
but with them, you know, especially going through the difficulties that they had just went through and now coming through with this. And
Yeah, already dealing with divorce
yes.
and adjusting to single parent family.
Yes. And then, you know, I just sat down with them, and very difficult conversation, but I reassured them that I was going to do everything in my power to fight it, to be there, you know, to live on. And
Obviously that worked.
yeah, it
Because
has.
here you are.
Yeah, here I am. But yeah, it was a very difficult road. But I did find out they were two of my they were my rocks.
Oh wow.
They were truly my rocks. I mean, they had to grow up even more.
Yeah,
faster.
that's a hard thing. That's
but-
sickness does do that sometimes.
Yes, it does. Yes, and they both have handled it in different ways, but I could always count on them. Always count on them, and they were there.
Wow. Now, the way you and I met, I was doing a video for Provision Cares. Talk about how that helped you, and kind of what it is in a general statement. But
Yes.
how did they help you?
Well, Les Fout, who is the director of our Cares Foundation, Provision Cares Foundation, approached me. I personally did not get to benefit from the foundation, but he knew as a survivor the challenges that I faced
Right.
going through the cancer diagnosis, going through the cancer fight, which was pretty extensive.
Yeah.
You know, I was in active treatment for over 3 years. So, you know, that's almost one child all the way through high school. So,
Yeah.
you know, we were in just active treatment. But anyway, the difficulties of financial was amazing. And
Yeah, going through that and as a single parent. Sure.
as a single parent. But I know that, and that's how we met. Les had asked if I would give my story and the challenges and showing the importance of a foundation.
Sure.
And
To be able to assist.
yes.
And that's not only provision patients, but
No.
that's because you weren't a provision patient at
No.
the time. It wasn't here. He wasn't here.
It wasn't here.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think that's why I'm such an advocate, is because of the benefits of the treatment. It is still radiation treatment, but it is a more controlled and more guided, where mine was traditional radiation, as most people will call it, or what I've always called it. But it goes deeper, and it can, in my situation, it scarred my heart and scarred my lung.
Traditional radiation.
Traditional, yes.
Right.
Where with proton therapy now, it's more controlled. And I feel very confident that my heart and lung would have been missed, would have been spared. So proton therapy does spare the healthy tissue.
Yeah. So you were scarred from the traditional radiation. You survived and are cancer free, but there are side effects.
Yes, there are long-term side effects.
Yeah.
And we keep watching the places on the heart and on the lung.
Yeah.
Because long-term, it could turn into cancer.
That's difficult to run with, and we pray that it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But this led to a whole different direction for you.
There was just an opportunity. There was I was in a support group for young survivors.
Okay.
And a lady that was hosting or directing that meeting, she told me about a position that she felt like I should go for, and I'm thinking, gosh, that requires, more schooling and training, and
Right.
I've never been in the medical field, I don't know how to do this, but she encouraged me, and she was the one that let me know that, afterwards I said, man, this just kind of fell in my lap, and she said, no, it didn't.
Yeah. In your perspective at the time, it did, but yeah.
Man, this opportunity, when I talked about it later, she happened to be sitting there, and just told her, I said, the opportunity, and this is Elmira Tieftaler that I'm talking about,
Okay.
and she's been in oncology for years, but she started up the support group that really helped me. But yeah, when she told me that, I was like, oh, this opportunity just fell in my lap. And she's like, no, it didn't. So, but anyway.
Because then you had a passion. Then you had
Yes.
it was very personal to you.
It was.
And God said, okay, you're ready.
Yeah. So, this was opening up and talking and helping. The position was mastectomy fetter and lymphedema patients is the ones that I was breast cancer patients and lymphedema patients that I
Okay.
worked with. And this was all pre and post surgical for cancer patients, breast cancer patients.
Which who better to talk to
Yeah.
and be in that position than someone who's been there
Mm-hmm.
and knows the emotions and the fright and all the things that come along with it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It was an opportunity to test the water for what I'm doing now, and just giving in, using that blind faith that's given to us. And I said, I've got a big bruise in the center of my forehead. If I would just release and listen to him, things would be so much better, instead of, because I know he carries around a wooden spoon and he keeps popping me between the eyes and saying, why don't you just listen to me and go where I'm
Quit
showing you to
fighting
go?
this. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well, and where he leads us is not always the most comfortable.
no.
Usually it's just one step beyond our comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that's where you were. It's like, oh, I don't know how to do that. I got to go to school. Oh, yeah. But you did follow.
I did. It took a lot of praying and releasing.
Yeah.
It's just letting go of that control that you think you have, that you don't.
No,
We
we
all
try
know
to grab
that.
any control
Yeah.
we can, but it's staying in the lane. There's a lot of guidance that is moving our hands, and we don't even know it.
Absolutely.
Wow.
But once you release it and you go with it, then you're going, why did I resist? Why did I just not do this to begin with?
Well, yes, and then but we just say, but we are doing it now,
We are.
and maybe there's a reason. We weren't prepared. We weren't ready, or even we weren't emotionally ready. Being scared, sometimes stepping into something isn't the right time to do it. But you felt confident, and now you are. You're the hospitality coordinator at Provision Proton Therapy here in Knoxville.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about what that involves.
Oh, I absolutely love my job. And my oldest son at one point made the statement. He came in complaining about his job and, the frustrations that everyone has. After I let him vent, he made the statement. He said, well, okay. He said, well, nobody's ever content and happy with their job. There's always something. I just sat there, and he kind of looked and kind of grinned, and he said, with the exception of you, Mom. He said,
What a
"You are the
compliment.
only person that I know that truly loves their job." And he is right. And
Wow.
that made me realize that I do love my job.
You not only love your job, you were made for it.
I think I was.
You were groomed,
I'm
as we all are. But you recognized it, and you take full advantage of it.
yeah. And I've went through that transition of recognizing really since I've been at Provision.
Wow.
I knew the moment that I walked through the doors because I went there reluctantly.
Mm-hmm.
I was comfortable where I was. My sister was right. I was comfortable.
Yeah, you were at a different cancer treatment
Yes.
center,
Yes.
and just felt the calling to put in an application.
Yeah,
at
kind
Provision.
of. Yeah, that wooden spoon between the eyes again.
Yeah, right. Every
But,
time I see a wooden spoon, I'm going to be thinking of you now.
Yes. But anyway, I filled out the application online and, reluctantly sent it in and then got the response back. And long story short, they called me in for an interview. And I went, and I knew the moment. I walked through those front doors. There was a feeling came over me that I just knew this was where I was going to be. To the point that when I left that first interview, I was sitting in the parking lot. I called my oldest sister. And I said, "I just met my new employers." And
Oh,
she
my.
said, "Did they offer you the job?" I said, "No." But they are. They will.
You knew it.
They will.
You knew it. You knew there was a connection.
I knew it was coming,
Wow.
and I was fearful of starting over. What am I going to do? But I knew that I had no choice in the matter. So I released it and took that blind leap of faith and was guided into where I was supposed to be. And
Amazing.
I am absolutely happy.
That is so cool. We're going to talk about in a minute. We're going to talk about how faith plays not only in your life now and through your walk with cancer, but also in the whole atmosphere there at Provision. This is Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker. Sharon Hall with Provision Proton Therapy is in the studio with us, and we'll talk more in just a moment. Today's program brought to you by Malone Dentistry. Provide the best that dentistry has to offer. That's the goal at Malone Dentistry, family and restorative dentistry. They want to minimize extensive dentistry care later. They want you to have a healthy, vibrant smile. Dr. Stephen Malone at Malone Dentistry and his team of 15, along with Dr. Aaron Noble and Dr. Michael Costa Jr., give you honesty, experience, personal care. They want to treat you like a member of their own family. And that's very comforting when you're walking in and through the whole process. KnoxvilleSmiles.com is where you can see all the glowing reviews. Comprehensive dental care, Malone Dentistry. Coming up, we'll have more with Sharon Hall on Dealing with Life.
Nothing is impossible for you. You hold my world in your hands. Nothing is impossible. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come.
You're listening to Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith. That's a book about dealing with life, dealing with worry, dealing with struggles and challenge through the eyes of a silly mutt named Mango, my dog. It's her perspective, at least what I think it is. And that's available. One Dog's Faith is the name of it. It's available through Amazon, through BarnesandNoble.com, through Cokesbury.com, as well as locally at Farragut Pharmacy, Long's Drug Store, Village Exchange, to name a few. Sharon Hall is in the studio with me today. Today's program, by the way, brought to you by Malone Dentistry. Sharon is lead hospitality coordinator at Provision Care's Proton Therapy here in Knoxville. And what a magical thing is happening inside that building. You're saving lives every single day. Good grief, they've got like, 3 treatment rooms, or is it more than that now?
Well, they have 3 active treatment rooms with 1 cyclotron, which is what creates the radiation beam.
The pencil beam,
cyclotron,
yes.
And then they also have a cyclotron that they built. Pronova, our sister company, manufactured. That is in treatment. So we're capable of having 5 rooms.
Oh, my.
But right now, the other 2, they're doing more research and things there. But it has been approved that they can treat patients there. We've actually successfully treated 2 patients in that room.
In the new rooms?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
And, some people know about it and some people don't, but Provision Proton Therapy is the alternative. It's not anything that's experimental, and because a lot of people will say that, but it's been around forever. But it's really taken hold now because they perfected it to the point that it doesn't affect the surrounding tissues, which is what the danger of traditional radiation is.
Yes.
And that's just magical. So your role as hospitality coordinator, you deal directly with the people who are in there for either consultation or treatments,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
What do you do?
I tease a lot of times and say, just call me Jackie, because I'm Jackie of all trades. When
Okay,
it comes to,
okay.
So wherever there's something needed, if someone needs it, patient, family member, I try to help them, try to guide them, get the answers that they need, or...
Well, when somebody's dealing with cancer, it's there's a little bit of a focus on treating that.
Yes.
And life still goes on,
It does still go on.
and you help them.
Where I think that I fit into this and where it fits in with me is our culture of care at Provision.
Yeah.
It is of a high standard. And when I interviewed, going back there just a little bit, when I interviewed there, I let them know or asked them, if there's any way, I just want to be a hands-on. I want to be with the patients that come in, with the family members, because I remember that feeling.
Yeah.
Going in any of the doctor's offices or treatment facilities, especially when you're getting treatment. I remember that horrible, lost, lonely feeling, like I was the only person in the world that was
gosh.
going through
That's
this.
scary.
Yeah. And fear is the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
But there, with our culture of care, you have an absolutely beautiful, peaceful lobby that
Yeah.
has God's artwork right there because it's all
That's
window.
beautiful, yeah.
So you get that mental and emotional, but what I love is the spiritual healing, and I hear it from the patients every day.
So talk about that. It seems like when you walk in that lobby, there's just a feeling of
There
peace.
is a feeling, and like I said, I felt it the very first day I walked through the doors. I felt it.
Yeah.
And I knew this was where I was going to end up at some point in time. This is where I was going to end up.
That's so strong.
Wasn't really sure how or when or where, how it was all going to happen. But I just had a feeling this was where I was going to be. And sure enough.
Well, even during your treatment, and you carry that on through dealing with other patients now, faith is a huge part of it.
Faith is, it has been growing for quite some time. But from the time I was diagnosed, in a 5-year period, we went to my mother. My sisters went to my mother 4 times and told her that one of her daughters had breast cancer.
4 times.
4 times in a 5-year period. It was myself, and then my oldest sister, that's Barbara, and then my middle sister, who was Cindy, and then my oldest sister was re-diagnosed.
Wow. So your mom had to have that conversation 4 times.
Yes.
And of course her husband,
Yes.
your father,
Yes.
died of cancer. So that's goodness. That's
And
that's
you know,
tough.
mom was old school. when she heard that I had cancer, and then it was just going on and on, she still thought, it was an immediate death sentence.
Sure.
But,
Well, it used to be.
used to be.
Yeah.
But they've come a long ways, and, mine was stage 3. And like I said, I was in active treatment for over 3 years.
Right.
So, it was very intense.
And
I
that was,
still
for those who hadn't heard from before, that was traditional radiation that
Yes.
you had.
Yes, traditional radiation.
Right.
But I think I did a lot of praying, a lot of soul searching, and I know that my family, my faith, my family, and then humor got me and my sisters
very
through
important,
that. It is
yeah.
very important because, some of our family members, we would get together, and when you have 3 girls going through this, and you get together at Christmas, you've got chemo brain, that doesn't work well.
Man, yeah, I can picture that all of a sudden.
But,
Yeah.
we couldn't remember who brought who or who got what or how did you make, I don't know. It was
Sure.
very confusing,
Wow.
but it was funny.
So, one thing I really want you to talk about is you went through traditional cancer treatment, and now you are advising, comforting, dealing with patients in proton therapy, and some of that is involved even when you're out in the world just walking around. You are a big supporter of proton therapy. What's the passion behind that?
Just from the medical standpoint, I'll speak of that first. I just know that it is less invasive,
Yeah.
this type treatment, and I just want everyone to be educated about it and then make the choice that's right for you.
Yeah.
But I'm a very strong, firm believer in proton therapy because it is less invasive. And for people like me who have the scarred heart, the scarred lung,
From traditional.
radiation, and that was great at the time. It's all that I had.
Mhm. And it saved your life.
It saved mine.
Yeah.
But to be able to cut down the long-term side effects, and I say long-term side effects, they've always had their side effects. Radiation, when it goes all the way through the body, it's affecting a lot of different things. So, no, I have active doctor's appointments
Right.
all the time.
Well,
because of
I know
radiation
that's
damage.
in the traditional radiation.
Yes.
Yeah, the breast cancer is so difficult because it's so close to the heart and the lungs, and
Yes.
that's the danger.
Yes. But when you have that choice of something that is less invasive,
Where it only gets the cancer.
where or minimal around
Sure.
it, but it doesn't go all the way through, and it picks up the heart and the lung, or depending on where it's at, head and neck, or
Yeah.
wherever, you get a lot of tissue and organs, whatever, surrounding that it can touch, and so you're having to battle that too.
Wow. So, what I want to talk about here in a second is your faith and dealing with that, and also how people, if they are facing the choice of cancer and want to know a little more about the options and how to get a hold of you or proton therapy, we'll talk about in a second. This is Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker. Sharon Hall with Provision Cares Proton Therapy is in the studio with me. Today's program brought to you by Malone Dentistry. We'll deal with more in just a second.
Let it move it. Well, you let it move. Oh, let it move it. Let it move.
I believe you're my healer. I believe you are all I need.
You are listening to Dealing with Life. I'm Tom Baker, author of One Dog's Faith, and thrilled to have you along. Sharon Hall is in the studio today. Our program today brought to you by Malone Dentistry. Sharon is lead hospitality coordinator at Provision Care's Proton Therapy here in town, and you deal with patients on a daily basis who are going through difficulties or in the process of treating and getting rid of the cancers, various cancers that they have, and you dealt with it yourself, so that puts your passion right forefront. But I think in talking and knowing you, faith is a very important part of this process. It was a part of the process we talked about earlier about you dealing with your own personal cancer. But what I want to talk about for a second is what is your advice for someone who has recently been diagnosed with, or even in the middle of treatment of cancer? Anger is a very common emotion. Angry, a believer could be angry at God and say, "Why are you allowing this to happen to me?" What's your advice?
I think they need to, first off, take a deep breath. Yeah. Which we all forget to breathe, I think,
Totally
sometimes.
forget.
But yeah, I was angry. I was angry. Didn't admit it a lot of times because
You don't want to.
No, you don't want to admit it. But I think you need to accept that and know that it's a normal reaction, a normal feeling. It doesn't mean that you hate God, because I no way hated God, but I didn't understand why I was going through all of this.
Sure. And I think, I'll interrupt you just for a second. Someone said the other day that anger is a great form of proof of faith. How could you be angry at God if you don't believe in him?
True.
So
That's
I think
true.
God has taken it as a compliment. Okay, you can be angry, but that means you believe because, we're in a conversation now, which is a good thing. So, okay, go
Until
ahead.
you got to realize that he knew I was going to be angry.
Yeah.
He knew I was so going to be mad, angry, questioning. He knew those.
Yeah.
He knew those emotions were going to be in me.
We don't have a lot to go on. We don't know what tomorrow looks like just yet.
No.
So we just get angry at now.
Yeah. And I mean, even today, on a daily basis, I question and I wonder, and I'm not questioning why me, but please show me. Show me what it is that you're wanting me to learn from this. Show me what it is, where you want me to go with this.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm no better than anyone else, and no one else is better than me.
Yeah.
We are all here and we're all equal.
Equal. But I think that's an important thing to say is a lot of times we sit there and try to pray, take this away. And I think the more important prayer is strength
Strengthful.
and understanding. And what do you do with it? How do you learn?
Yeah. But I mean, the anger part, I was angry because I was worried about my children.
Yeah.
But then when I was told, my sisters had it, I think I took that harder. It was more of a sucker punch to the gut.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because I knew what they were possibly facing
Sure.
too.
And feeling.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yes. And I know
Wow.
that during all of this, there was a man that was led to my life that I love dearly and brought two wonderful children. And that helped my children.
Sure.
And I tried really, really hard to push him away. I really did, because I thought this is unfair, because we had just started dating and had just agreed to start introducing our children when all of this came about.
About your
And,
cancer.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I thought, this is not fair to him or the
to
children.
drag him
is
into it,
to
yeah.
yeah. So, he's kept me grounded in a lot of that too.
That's very God-led too.
Yeah.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
That he was stronger than you pushing him away.
He was very strong, and I remember having a surgery, and I did not want him there. And he ended up at the hospital anyway. But
He didn't listen.
Well, he did. He didn't listen. I mean, he listened to me, but when he spoke with my children and they asked him to be there,
Yeah.
he went for them. He never asked to see me.
Wow. How incredible.
And then my sister came in recovery room and said, "Hey, he's out here." And I'm like, "What?" She said, "But he's not here to see you. He's here to see
How
Mom
magical.
and your children." And So finally I agreed to see him, and she was like, I don't think that's the thing. I agreed to see him, No.
Yeah, right.
She said, you need to see if he wants to see you. And I'm like, wait a minute. I just had surgery. I have cancer, But when he came into the room, I remember him looking at me, and he said, how are you? And, it was the poor, pitiful me. I just had surgery. I've got cancer and all this. But this set our relationship pretty early on, I think. And I knew that he would be strong for me.
Yeah.
When I asked how he was, his reply to me was disappointed.
Really?
So I'm thinking, I'm laying here recovering from surgery. I've got cancer. Do you not know I have cancer? But he was disappointed that I didn't have enough faith in him.
Oh, wow.
So I knew at that point he was a keeper.
You got a good one. Oh, that's
He
so
was a keeper.
strong.
So, yeah.
Sharon Hall with Provision Care's Proton Therapy here in town. You're the lead hospitality coordinator. Real quickly, how does one, if they're facing options in treating cancer, this by far is the strongest, least invasive. How does one get hold of Provision to schedule an appointment or phone number?
Yes.
What's the best way?
And we are actually located at in Dowell Springs, which is off of Middlebrook Pike. It's the Dowell Springs complex. It's 6450 Provision Cares Way here in Knoxville.
Okay.
And the number is 865-862-1600. You can call there and just let whoever answers the phone. Whoever, it could be answering service after hours, but we try to have someone there to answer the phone.
Sure.
Till pretty late in the afternoon.
Right.
But just ask them and tell them you want more information. But I highly recommend researching all of the options.
Sure.
And then pray about it, and then make the decision that you feel like that you're led to.
Yeah. Listen.
Absolutely. Listen. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Listen.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a special journey to walk with you and where you've been and where you are now.
Thank you.
Praise God that you're doing what He asked you to do.
I am trying my best every day.
You smile all the time, which
All
is
the
so
time.
magical. That's so magical. This is Dealing with Life. We do this every single week. If you missed part of today's show or you want to hear other shows, go to dealingwithlife.net.
You speak